You're listening to The Brand Compass, conversations to navigate your way to building a brand fit for purpose and poised for success. Here's your host, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦.
Hello there, my friend, and we are back for another installment. And thank you so much for joining us today. If you've been looking for a place where people are having proper conversations about where your brand meets the humans you serve, this is that place. Welcome. I'm 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦. I'm your host on this conversational journey, and I have a super guest for you today who will be a really big help in a hugely practical and down-to-earth way. As service providers, this is how I see it, we have three really deep challenges. Number one, we have to extract our extraordinary value from our heads and shape it into something that other people understand and grasp. Second challenge, we need to match our knowledge and what we can do with a real need in a client or customer and create a solution. And the third and last challenge, we then have to decide how we deliver that solution to the client to bring about the results that we promise. Sound about right? Give or take, I would think or feel that potentially two of those things at least have been a challenge for you at different points in your journey. My guest today is going to help you and I gain some clarity around the realities of shaping an offer for a client. And we are going to specifically talk about one-to-one offers, and we're going to park all other forms of delivery at this point in time. Now, I want you to listen openly to our conversation and see what could be possible for you, especially if you've fallen out of love with one-to-one work. Perhaps this type of service is actually your preference. Let's see what our guest has to say about it today. So let's get going then. Today, I'm going to speak to Janine Coombes, who is a service positioning expert who helps coaches and consultants to earn dramatically more from their one-to-one services without slogging their guts out or moving to a more complicated business model. She has an extensive background in business and marketing, including working with big brands like EE, Orange, and Europcar. What I do love, though, is that Janine's hands-on experience is also backed by formal training. She has a business degree, a postgraduate marketing diploma, and for the last 7 years has been helping small service-based business owners to position and sell their offers, my favorite people. She regularly speaks on stages like 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗑𝗍, You Are the Media, and Market Ed Live. Janine is married to Rich. They have 2 children and they live in a little town in Hampshire about half an hour north of Portsmouth in the UK. Welcome, Janine. Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Yay! To kick off our conversation, Janine, I thought it might be good to kind of call out the elephant in the room, if you will, and say that trying to run multiple offers at once is not the most effective business model, right? And I really love your message that comes across quite clearly in everything that you do and you say in your content and when you're speaking to people, and that is to pick one, focus on one, keep things really simple until you've cracked it. So could you maybe fill our listeners in on how you learned that simplicity is best instead of trying to do all the things for all the people, and perhaps maybe in your own work or maybe even with clients?
Yeah. So before I dive into my journey, as it were, I do want to say that there are loads of people who are doing perfectly well with loads of offers. It can help. I can think of an example, if people have heard of Elizabeth Buckley-Goddard. Her business model is loads and loads of offers. It's loads of, a variety of different price courses and things. So it can work, but what doesn't work is trying to launch 10 offers all at the same time. So just to reassure people if they're listening, we're not saying
don't have
only have one offer. Yeah, we're saying it's better to focus on one thing at a time. And what I see a lot of, and I suppose this is where my journey comes into it, it's better it was better for me to focus on the one big thing where I could help people the most, that I could charge really good money, and it was something that really I could get my teeth stuck into. I could really make the biggest transformation with my clients, focus on getting that right first, and then look at other offers if I wanted to, like, build out a value ladder. And I have ranted about value ladders before as well. It's one of my fun things I like to rant about. I think people tend to start at the bottom.
No, it doesn't necessarily need to be that kind of ladder. Yeah.
No, I mean, they can work, but it's tempting to start at the bottom rung and, build the ladder upwards. But then what are you resting it on?
Nice.
Your
Good
one
analogy.
big thing is that, I love an analogy.
Yes, a good metaphor.
What's your building you're leaning your ladder against? What's at the top of the ladder? If there's nothing at the top of the ladder, it's so hard to know whether you're building the right offers. Every offer might have a different target market. It's a nightmare.
And I think that comes to what we want to move on to, isn't it? Is picking that one offer, focusing on that one offer. And I think you're also already intimating that you don't start with your, power hour being your one offer. Because, and I think also from my experience is that actually if you started with that higher offer, it would be so much easier to then develop what you think the lead-ins to that, like what are the people that are a stage before getting to there, or 2 stages before. It gets easier, for me at least, it seems, to actually start with that main offer or the higher offer, because then you can actually work out the other ones. But how do you I mean, we talk a lot about in the show about how to design your ideal or perfect, if you want to use the word perfect, but ideal working lifestyle for you. And sometimes you just got to make some really hard-nosed decisions, don't you, about how you want to do the work that you would do. So can we dig in a little bit in the work that you do with your coach-shaped clients, in the work that you do with them, and you help them to pick that one offer? How do you distill that? How do you help them to get to that?
Yeah, I mean, the things I take people through, it sounds really obvious. It sounds really simple, and it sounds like, I think a lot of my clients come to me thinking, why haven't I been able to do this myself? Like, I've had marketers as clients. It's like, why can't I do this myself? And it's just so hard when you're working on your own business to see the wood for the trees. But the key things are, like, what do you enjoy most? What is using the most of your talents? What are people already buying from you that you really enjoy delivering? What is the problem that you can solve, which is the biggest problem that you can tackle, the most valuable problem that you can help your ideal clients with? Those are the kinds of things that I look at immediately when somebody starts working with me, just to go, come on, let's, usually the final offer, we will have refined the messaging again and again and made sure it's as good as possible. But the first, get something out there and see whether it flies, are those sort of key points. Do you enjoy it? Can you charge good money? Will people buy it?
So let's think of 2 types of people. I'm just going to digress a little bit there because of what you were talking about. So you might have people that are just starting out. I think this is very hard for them to do, right? Starting out. So you probably have a couple of more layers to, like you say, like, oh, let's throw something out, let's test it. So there's potentially that testing period, right? But let's try first with people who are a bit more established. Say they've been in business. I like to use the marker somewhere between 4 to 6 years, because I feel like when you get to that point, you have, I think, got a pretty good idea of the type of people you don't want to work with and the kind of work you don't want to do. So say someone comes to you, they're 6 years in, and they go, I'm not making the profit that I'm wanting to. I want to reduce my work hours, but I am trying to increase, my profitability as well. I want a better balance of how much I'm putting in and how much I'm earning. If you ask them those questions, what if they are doing too many things? Like, how do you eliminate some of the things? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do we get to that one offer?
Yeah, I think it's easy for me as the coach / consultant to ask them that, to say, okay, talk me through what's on your roster at the moment. And then as they articulate it,
Yes.
they're like, oh yeah, it's that thing. That thing's the obvious thing. Sometimes it's not obvious, but usually it is. And as soon as they've articulated it and said it out loud, they're like, oh, well, obviously it's this that I should be doing. And actually that's a distraction. And actually that one I don't, that offer that I put out, why did I do it? I don't understand why I did it anymore, because I'm not enjoying it and it's not bringing me any money. It becomes easier and obvious when you speak it out loud, like so many things.
Yes, and I know when we were having our chat about what we were going to talk about, there was an element as well that I like that you touched on, where potentially you're also trying to serve too many types of clients as opposed to honing down on one specific one. Talk me through that a bit.
Oh, I love this.
I know, that's what I wanted to hear.
Love it. Because I think there's so many nuances to this conversation. Because you've got your people who think they've niched,
yes,
but they really haven't. It's still very broad, and they haven't quite got to grips with actually there's subsections of their niche that actually need a specific offer for each one. So which one's the obvious one to go for? Or there's people who are just really, they feel like they understand the logic of niching and being specific. They're resisting it, and they can't help themselves from resisting it, and and either they decide to be a generalist, which is nothing wrong with being a generalist at all, or they just are stuck in this sort of battle of, I know I should niche, but I can't niche, I don't want to niche, that kind of thing. And what I like doing is my solution, if you will, is that you don't have to niche your whole company. You don't have to niche your whole brand. You just have to niche your
a product, a service.
It's not even about niching. It's about being specific about what that one offer is for.
And who it's for.
What's the one? Yeah. What are they? What's their problem? Who are they? And what's your solution? It's one thing. And start with that. Do that. Nail it. Get it working. Get it profitable. Then you can add the next thing.
Tell me what you do or what you say when people go, I like the variety though.
Oh, I love it. It's so common, isn't it?
Yes.
I like the variety. Well, if I'm being really cheeky, I feel like they can take it, then I might say something like, oh, what's sort of the variety? Is it the variety of some people paying you and some people not paying you, and you enjoying some of the work and not enjoying some of the other work? And it depends how cheeky I'm feeling. If I'm feeling more tactful, I think I do just position it as, you can absolutely have the variety. You can absolutely have the variety, even if you only had one really tight target market and one thing that you were doing. Every single person is different. Every single problem they bring is different. And then, even if that happens, you can add another offer after that. But let's do one at a time.
Perfect. Good answer. When people can handle the truth, can you handle the truth? Right. So I think that's helpful. I mean, just in trying to even just start to think about what's the one offer they could focus on. And we're not saying don't have others. Focus on one, get it right, get it working well, and you can always add another. Okay, so let's think now. What I am interested in, and I try and get people to think a little bit more about, is what one-to-one services actually have to look like in terms of physical delivery. So I'm a bit curious as to, because you've got so many coach-shaped people that you've worked with, you must have seen all kinds of ways in which people can actually do one-to-one offers. And I must say, after the pandemic, I think more people are open to actually, you can break things up. You can do some stuff remote. Like, I'm interested to hear, have you come across any good examples of just adding different ways that you can do this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is the part where I probably advise clients least. They usually come to me
to focus on the
with
problem
their
and the
way.
solution.
Yeah, they know how they like to solve the problem. My sweet spot is that sort of coach or consultant who's been going a bit longer, and they've tried different ways and they've worked out what works for them. So I've got one client. Yeah, so I've got one client. I mean, majority of my clients do work online, on Zoom or Teams or whatever. One client sees their clients several times a month. They have a big planning session, 90 minutes per month, and then they have some laser sessions, 15 minutes each, for the rest of the weeks of the month.
Okay.
Some of my clients see their clients only once a month. Sometimes I've got one client who sees her one-to-one coachees once or twice a month, and she wants to mix in some face-to-face, so she must see them face-to-face.
Yeah.
It's just how she prefers to build the relationship and dig deep. Another client only does coaching on Voxer, so no direct face-to-face contact at all.
Okay,
so
for anybody listening,
usually...
do you want to just explain Voxer in case anybody's not come across it as a tool?
Yeah, sorry, jargon. Voxer is like WhatsApp, or even like SMS messaging, text messaging, only you can share voice notes, little videos, but it's an asynchronous way of contacting people and talking to people. So if you happen to be there, it calls itself the walkie-talkie app. If you happen to be there, you could have a live conversation, but there's no onus on you as the coach to be there 24/7 and answer. And it allows sort of deep conversations. And the reason I like Voxer, and I use Voxer for my one-to-one clients in between calls, is just because it's not WhatsApp and it doesn't have all the chatty parent groups pinging all the time. I've got all my notifications off for text messaging and WhatsApp and all those other messaging portals, but Voxer is my business one. So that's the only benefit for me, really, to use Voxer, other than something like WhatsApp. It's my business channel.
Okay. All right. So it's almost adding those little extra touch points, and especially with coaches and consultants where clients have got ideas, isn't it? And they want to throw something at you, see what you think, or get advice. But obviously you price for that, right? So if someone's going to get Voxer access to you, it's built into what your offer is, isn't it? So, so I was so a lot of your clients then, is that all really retained clients they have over a period of time? Do you have any consultants that actually deliver, consultancy packages, if you like, which is almost like a project-based thing as opposed to, recurring revenue?
Yeah, I think most of my clients will do contracts. They tend to do, not so many of them project-based, but they will do, a 6-month contract, a 3-month contract, even if it's a coaching contract. Some a year. It depends on how they know that they get the best results from their clients.
Yeah, because you're trying to help almost with guiding the implementation of the advice or whatever it is that you're working with them on. All right, so we've touched. So I was just interested to hear if there were different formats for that, because a lot of consultancy, it feels like it has to be in person, isn't it, or on virtual. I just wondered whether you'd seen any models where potentially there is, say, you've got very specific advice that you always give the same set of clients. Do you almost like have an online library of things and go, right, work through these videos, then we'll have our first consultancy, then you do your exercises, then we'll do our next consultancy? I just wondered if that was a thing or not.
A few of them do that, but like I say, it's kind of they've work that out themselves before they get to me, which is quite nice. It's like, okay, we don't
need to go into that.
It tends to be more about messaging.
Yes, because of their positioning and deciding what it is that they're doing. So let's move to another really challenging, because we talked about value ladder, we talked about focusing on the higher value offer, and that's the next element that people find really tricky is pricing. Right. So how do we get, and a lot of my challenge with knowledge workers or subject matter experts is to try and get them to flip that switch from the cost-based pricing or time-based pricing to value-based pricing. Can you maybe share a little bit around how you help clients with their mindset around how they actually price themselves, and maybe talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be nimble on this one. When I'm working with people sort of intensively, I do like digging into their own preconceptions about money and the way they talk about pricing. It's very revealing, and everyone's different. But you can usually pick up little clues. Oh, okay, so you think, this is what you're thinking about the money, and it's not an example about pricing, but it's a selling example. Like one client I picked up on recently was using the word push. I'm going to push this, and then I don't want to push this one too much. And instead of selling, she was saying push, and it made her feel like she was pushing something onto somebody else, even though logically she knows she can't help them unless they buy. And it's her job as a business owner to explain to people that what she's got and what's available. It was just that little language, and I pick it up on pricing as well when people are like, oh well, preconceptions that loads of people still have, like selling something cheaper is going to be easier to sell. It doesn't matter how many times you've heard the opposite. It's really not. It's not easier to sell if you've got something, £2,000 and you sell it for 1,800. Is that really going to increase your sales? No, it's just going to mean that you're going to have to sell more to make the same money now. Even though logically that makes sense, I think it's still this sort of, oh, well, to sell more, you've got January sales, isn't it? And Black Friday discounts. And if I discount, then I'll sell more. And it doesn't usually play out like that. I've forgotten what the original question was now.
No, that's fine, because we were talking about the mindset and the myths, and I think one of the myths is if something's at a lower price, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell. But like you say, actually lower price means higher volumes, which means you need to step up your activity even more. And what people forget when they're pricing or they're valuing things, especially when they're knowledge workers or subject matter experts, is if you keep depreciating the price at which you're offering your service, you're devaluing the value that you've said that you promised in the first place. I'm really against dropping prices. The only time I think I've really decided to do a discount, if you like, is like when I was rolling out my group program, for example, where it's like, right, I could really do I wouldn't do it for free, but it was like I could, the market price is this, but actually this is my beta. What I'd really like in return is some feedback. So there's a bit of give and take. Then I would give a discount, but they would still pay for it because I put a lot of time and money into putting that knowledge and that program together. So I think you've just got to keep weighing those scales a bit, don't you? So that you're not always undermining what you're bringing to the table. And discounting, I feel like, really undermines where you're coming from in the first place.
Yeah, I think as you're talking, I think you've highlighted a really subtle distinction between discounting and incentivizing. So you wanted to get some people into the beta, so you're like, this is an incentive to take action now. Yeah. It's not a discount, it's not a cheapening thing, it's an incentive. And it is a really subtle distinction. I think it's just a little bit of an energetic it's difference in how you approach it and how you feel about it. And another thing that cropped up to mind when you were talking was again this sort of feeling that it might not be somebody selling something for £2,000 who wants to sell it for £200 cheaper. There's this sort of feeling like, gosh, maybe if I just sold a few DIY courses or like power hours, something much, much cheaper, then I could sell more of them, which of course you'd have to sell a hell of a lot more to get the same money. But also it's this feeling that you might be appealing to a different type of customer.
Yeah.
And also like this, the whole thing about, I know it's really annoying and I know it shouldn't be the case, but the price is part of the value. If you're paying big money, the clients who pay that money are going to do more work, are going to take you more seriously, are going to value what you're saying more. And it becomes this weird thing that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If somebody spends £10,000 on coaching or £50,000 on coaching...
Oh, you're pushing me. You're pushing me now.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there are people... I had a friend who spent £60,000 on a coaching package, which said... several things. She had the money to spend. She did not go into debt. This is a woman who was turning over a lot of money already. So already she's got that traction to find that money to spend on a coach. So already, a 10% increase in her revenue would mean much more to her than somebody who's only earning a few grand a month. So it's sort of, it's a positioning piece. It's a mindset piece. if you're increasing your prices a lot or decreasing your prices a lot, you could be shifting into a different target market.
Well, that's
bracket.
the thing, isn't it? You're actually changing who your target audience is altogether, and the types of problems you're solving, because you can't go and solve all those big problems now for £1,000, whereas actually you need to be selling that at £5,000. You can't be solving the same problems at those same price points. So you almost got to use them as little checkpoints for yourself, don't you? Okay, so if we've got a consultant or a coach, advisor, educator, someone who's an expert in their field, they're busy delivering one-to-one services, what's the one big takeaway that you want them to get from today that you think, right, if they've listened to this episode, I want them to do this one thing?
I think it would be lovely if we've got people listening who are juggling and trying to develop several offers at the same time. If they could say, oh, okay, this is a wake-up call, I just need to go with this one thing. And it would be wonderful if they could think, oh, do you know what, now listening to that and thinking about it in this way, it's obvious that this is the one, and that's what I need to focus my energy on.
And of course, we're not saying get rid of the rest. We're saying pause.
No.
Focus. One first.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I know you've also got a resource that you wanted to share with the listeners that will actually help with all of this. Do you want to just share that now before we go into the close? Because I think it's probably helpful for exactly what we've just talked about now.
Yes. I'm trying to remember which exact one that I suggested to you now. That's
I think it was the service offers.
The blog, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, if you would like to go to JanineCoombes.co.uk, it's my ultimate guide to packaging and selling service offers, which takes you through step by step how to put together a service offer that will sell.
Brilliant. So I think that's quite useful, because having the discussion and then actually sitting down and doing the job is two very different things. Oh, right. Oh, I really enjoyed that, Janine. I think we could just carry on more, because the whole pricing thing for me, it very much affects positioning, like you were saying as well. But it is the whole encompassing thing of, and what I try and say to clients when they trying to solve some problems that they're for a customer, where they're trying to solve problems for a customer, sometimes they get a bit locked in the problem they think that they're solving. And I do that toddler thing where I go, okay, yes, but why? But what does that solve? And then as you move up through the why questioning, you get to that, well, actually, so the real big problem that you're solving is this one here. And they're like, oh, gosh, yeah I guess so. I said, right, now move all of what you're saying to what that problem is that you're solving. Not this one about how you build a house out of Lego. It's actually, how do you put all these Lego houses into boxes and ship them in a truck? To think of a really weird analogy. But yeah, so what you're actually not helping people doing is building those Lego houses. What you're actually helping them to do is layer up those boxes onto a pallet and into a truck going somewhere. I'm not really sure that metaphor works. Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like that. Yeah. It's scale, isn't it? It's scale, and it's, yeah.
Yeah, there's bigger problems to solve, and generally if you're an expert, you are solving the bigger problem, not the immediate one that seems to be surfacing in the front. That makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a fun dance. I usually talk about selling what people want, or even say they want, like matching that need, like their words that they're coming out with, and then giving them what they need. So sometimes it's a horrible way of saying it is a bait and switch. They want this, and then actually what you're giving them, like weight loss is, I don't know why I always think of weight loss, but like people say they want weight loss, but what you're actually giving them perhaps is mindset, a better way to think about nutrition, all these other things, but they won't actually say that. That's not the hook, as it were.
Yeah, because I think the immediate problem they're trying to solve is losing weight, but actually weight is as a result of many things. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, and then you can go the other way. To your point, you could go the other way and investigate sort of what's the motivations and the emotional reasons why. But yes, that's a conversation for another time.
Yes, I know. I think so. There's an episode 2 if we can get all the tech to work. Yay! All right, I got loads for that. Like you really have a special gift. I mean, you've been pretty sedate for the Janine I know on social media, I have to say. You have a really special gift of teaching, though, with a really fun and creative edge. You're very clear in how you teach people. It's so easy to understand, when you are talking, and you're just so smart. You're a real smart cookie.
you.
It's a pleasure. So now, anyone listening today who has resonated with what you said, they want to know a bit more about you and the work that they do, where can they go find you? What's your preferred socials? And you can give a website as well, but I'll pop all the links in the post.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, LinkedIn is my home for social media. You can go to JanineCoombes.co.uk and you can sign up to my email list there if you really want me in your inbox.
I thought you were going to say your bin box.
No, it did sound a bit like bin box. Not in your bin box.
Your inbox, please. Thank you so much for joining this conversation today and sharing your insights, Janine. I love seeing your content and hearing you speak. Hopefully over time we can have more conversations like this. I think we've got another topic we can go into. You just give me hope that knowledge workers can really truly find joy in their work and actually be remunerated for their genius. So thank you very much.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for this episode today, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Has this made you fall back in love with the idea of focusing on one-to-one work? Or has our conversation helped you to see that your one-to-one work could be delivered possibly in different shapes and forms and still be enjoyable? The key to all of this is to take the time out and figure out what you really want to be doing and matching that with what your ideal clients are needing help with. Don't listen to the maddening crowd. Listen to what your gut instinct is telling you. You do not need to do all of the things for all of the people. Pick one and do it well. Then you can add to it. Who do you know who could do with hearing this conversation and Janine's insights? Go on, share this episode. You know you want to. Until next time, stay strong, believe you have value, and make good brand decisions.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Compass. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your entrepreneurial friends and help them make good brand decisions. Until next time, let's keep the conversation going at 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗑𝗘𝗟𝗟.